Everything's good. I've just been called into my work many, many days, so I'm in my office again. I had to go see someone, and I rushed back here, so here I am.
No problem. No problem. The That takes precedence over
Thank
our
you.
nonsense here in the show. So, what do you have in store for us today? I didn't know of this topic before you even mentioned it, and I didn't research it because I wanted to be surprised.
Well,
So, go ahead.
yes. So these stories are aligned. My stories are very similar. That's why they're both combined together. And I
All
think
right.
we're going to start with my stories, and then we're going to go to Aesop's fables. Because
Very well.
I want to frame it with my stories, and then we can see how Aesop's fables sort of engage the stories that I wrote.
All right.
Or yeah, Aesop's fables. So I'm gonna let's see. Can I share the screen too? Because I want to show my pictures too that I drew. So I'll
Yes.
explain a little bit about this. I went to an animation school. There was this famous animator. His name is Don Bluth. So I was a student of his school. I graduated, and so a part of the program was we had to make our own like hand drawn animations and make stories with them. And I'm not the best hand drawn animator, but I think I was a pretty good storyteller. So um, yes, so we're gonna go. I have, let's see, I have two stories, and I'm gonna try to download all of them. Here we go, and I'm gonna share the pictures too. What I'll do is I'll read the story, and then I'll show the pictures afterwards, so then
All
people
right.
can kind of see what they think.
Perfect. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm gonna get download both of these documents real quick, and should be good. Where is the other one? Read. Okay, both of them now. It's getting a zip file. And if you saw the thumb tag, you saw that one of the drawings there too. So I'm going to start off with this story is called the. Let's see. This one is called The Wise Little Turtle. Here we go. And I will start. So this is The Wise Little Turtle, written by me. Consider the struggle of life and death. What would you be willing to do in order to survive? In this tale, we will travel to another place and another time. We will travel to the coast of a shadowy shore and see this story unfold. There once was a young mother turtle named Tammy Turtle. She was laden with child. She shuffled on the shore to give birth. She found a nice little space as protected as could be. She realized her precious cargo in the damp earth and hid her children so no enemy could see. She shuffled off as she shuffled in, knowing her duty was complete. However, when she met the water, a terrible wind blew. Down swooped the big baddie, Epidemic Eagle, a blight to all life. The epidemic eagle snatched up the poor mother, and she was never to be seen again. Travis Turtle awakens with his brothers and sisters breaking out of their shells, but time is not on their side. Hungry denizens of the beach who want to eat a tasty turtle treat appear. One by one, crabs and seagulls grab the turtles up. Most of this diabolical work was carried out by the terrible epidemic eagle. All the turtles are gone except little Travis, slowly plodding away to the forest ahead. Travis is not the strongest turtle, but he has courage and chutzpah. All the hungry denizens of the shore, led by the epidemic eagle, pursue him. He uses his shell and somersaults away, farther and farther away from the shore, and very close to the forest. He narrowly escapes under the brush, with a talon scratching his shell. All the beasts moan that they were not successful in their efforts. Travis keeps his slow and steady course. He is still not safe yet. There are another whole host of threats to hurt him, but he makes himself small and not a target. He smells a familiar smell of safety and comfort that he was born with. However, night was coming. He followed his scent and instinct and ended up in a turtle village, safe and sound. Keep on going, no matter the odds. Eventually, you will find safety, love, and where you belong. So that is the end. That is the story of the wise little turtle. And I'm going to show the pictures from it too now.
All right. I like it. Start with a lot of darkness, but ends up quite nice. I do have a propensity for turtles. I do love turtles.
Well, I think turtles are super cute. So
Yeah.
that's the story of Travis Turtle. So I'm gonna let's see. I can present.
Yes.
Let's see. I'll open up this picture. I'm gonna show the epidemic eagle right now. This is a scary one. Okay, let's see. Can I present? Share screen. Okay.
Well, I'm going to dedicate this one to my turtle
Please.
because it's been with for me for like over, I don't know, almost like 25 years or something. It's crazy. And he's there. He's hibernating. So it's kind of like living alone because he doesn't really do anything now. But yeah, to the turtle who doesn't have a name, because it's a turtle. If you call it, it doesn't really come to you. So it makes no sense to give it a name. Could you find the share thingy?
I think there's some trick that's making me like open up the system preferences. Give me a second. I think this will work. Oh boy. Oh man. Okay. Let's see if this works. I'm gonna try again because I did this before, I thought.
Hold on. No, yeah. I see everything. Everything is fine. To share.
It's my computer. It's just being a jerk right now. Let's see. I put Google Chrome. Let's try it again.
Yeah, if you share a Chrome tab, it may be easier.
It's on my computer though. That's weird.
One fun fact about turtles, you know how like snails and particularly like the hermit crab doesn't really have, like, their shell is not a part of the animal itself. It's kind of something else. The turtles are the shell, like their skeleton is inverted. So it's a very interesting thing to see, like anatomically, how a turtle or a tortoise functions. I went to the Natural History Museum here, and they have a couple of tortoises and turtles, and it's very interesting, the animals.
So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to restart it. I'm going to go into the other Discord and talk about it for a second, and then I'm going to restart this page here.
Oh, shoot. Okay. No problemo. If you want, yeah, maybe a reboot. And in the meantime,
Thank you.
In the meantime, you have another story for us from your own stories, right?
Yes, I do have another story. I'm just seeing if I can do this quickly. The other story is called Mr. Where is it? I just have it up here. Mr. Marvelous Mouse. It is Mr. Marvelous Mouse and Sultana Shanti. That's the name of the next story.
Okay.
So I can read that story, but I'm just gonna try and see if I can get this going again. Here we go. And I sent you the pictures too, so I don't know if you are able to share them if I can't. Let's try this again.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, mute yourself. Yeah, sorry.
Can you let me in here? Great.
Yes.
Let's try this one more time. And I'm gonna see if I can share the screen. I'm sorry about these technical issues.
No problem. Things happen.
They do. Let's see. Can you see that?
Yes.
Great. So that all I need to do was restart it. So this is Epidemic Eagle. This is the scary villain. And you can see it has the kind of like nuclear bio beware handkerchief. And the epidemic eagle is carrying the poor mother away. And here is Travis Turtle coming out of his shell. And here is Travis Turtle in his shell. So you can see I'm using like an animation board, and this is because what you do is you kind of flip through. So these are like animation papers because you can see the 3 pegs. So that is this story. So we'll stop the screen and we will talk about the next story. And this is Mrs. Marvelous Mouse. And let me see if I can open up that quickly. Let's see if that works. Okay. So this is Mr. Marvelous Mouse and Sultana Shanti. Once upon a time, there lived a very special mouse. His name was Mr. Marvelous Mouse. Mr. Marvelous Mouse loves Sultana Shanti. He wants to give her the best engagement present ever. However, there's a problem. There's only one gift worthy for her that he knows of, the golden berry of everlasting happiness. It is on the peak of Mount Moira, on the tippy top branch. He has a best friend named Shining Sparrow. Shining Sparrow says if he wants to get such a prize, he must fly. Mr. Marvelous Mouse is smart and builds a little plane fueled on vegetable oil. He sets off, puff, puff, puff. He goes into the air. He starts up in the mountain, but it is not as easy as he thought. His plane is going down, 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 but he pushes it into gear and he goes back up the treacherous path. That's not all he has to face. Next, he sees a pack of hungry animals, hawks and owls in the sky, and foxes and ferrets on the ground. They smell his fuel burning and see a tasty treat. He skillfully dodges them all, and finally he is at the peak. The berry is in sight. He goes to grab it, but oh no, he's out of fuel. He touches the berry, but earthward his plane goes, as well as him. Zoom, 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 spiraling down. He is able to have a safe landing, but does not have the berry he wanted to give his love. He goes to her anyway, even though he apparently has nothing to give her as an engagement. He tells her he loves her and says he wants to marry her, but he has nothing to give her. She says, but he does, and already has. She said he gave her his heart. They accept to get married. She also mentions there's something in his pack, which had fallen in the golden berry. The moral of the story is the treasure you really have can be found within. Love is not just material. When you try hard for something, you may just get it. Who do you dedicate the story to?
That's a hard one. Because, to the people that are in love, maybe. Because
That's cute.
And I do kind of agree with the point. I'll share that for you. I need to get water. Give me 1 second.
You're good. So that's Mr. Marvelous Mouse. I'm going to show you Shining Sparrow, Sultana Shanti, the whole journey. There's a lot of great things here. So that's Mr. Marvelous Mouse. We definitely want to hear what you have to say in the comments, what you think about Mr. Marvelous Mouse and Sultana Shanti. So next, I'm gonna stop sharing this one.
I'm back.
Great.
Um,
So I'm gonna share the next screen. There's a couple more pictures here.
I am not big on love right now, but I've been in love, and I can certainly share some of the ideas from the story about uh, that love is what you are and not about what you have or anything. But it's a bit cheesy to say that.
Can you see that picture? And I think that's great. I think that's the point about what love
Yes.
should be. So this is the journey. This is the journey of all the creatures trying to get him, and the foxes and ferrets below, and the golden berries right on top. So we're going to show a little bit more of this journey. And let's see. I didn't show Shining Sparrow either. This is his friend. Yeah, I have a little animation stuff that I did on my page. Okay, here we go. This is Shining Sparrow. Can we see Shining Sparrow? I'm not sure if that's great. So there's Shining Sparrow. This is Mr. Marvelous Mouse's friend. So I am going to stop screen, and then I'm going to show the next one. So we get a little bit of this story. Yeah, I was thinking maybe might make little kids books. I think that would.
That's fun.
Okay, here's this. This is a part of the journey where he touches the golden berry. And then this was a really intense class. I had to keep drawing all the time. It was a lot of work. And this is the last.
I am. My skill in drawing is negative.
Oh, that's fine. This is Sultana Shanti. This is probably my favorite one of the drawings. That's Sultana Shanti. I think she's kind of cute. She's a little Daisy mouse. A little South Asian mouse. Sultana Shanti. So
people might say weird stuff if they clip that.
Oh, really? Yeah, people have interesting tastes, I think. All my stuff is just kind of, it's like, well, my teacher was a person who made lots of interesting animation. He did Land Before Time, if you've heard of that movie. He did Fievel, American Tail, Fievel.
Oh, Fievel, yes.
Yeah, so he made that character. My teacher did. And he did Thumbelina. He was a very famous animator. He was a competitor to Disney. He first was a Disney animator. So I was really inspired by being with this teacher. And let us see.
Can you give us a summary of what Aesop's fables are?
I actually have a little writing that I put up. Give me one second. I think I had to because I closed the Chrome, so it may have closed that. But just give me 1 second. I'll have it up. But basically, Aesop was a person who was enslaved. People believe, well, this is the story. There's not a lot that we know about him, but he's said to have been a person of color.
Which color?
Black. He was a black enslaved person. This is the idea he's from I guess the kind of 7th century BCE. So he's before Common Era.
Okay.
So I have it right here. Just give me 1 second. Here it is.
I always find that.
I see a person of color. It's just a way of color. I mean,
I know.
You and I are people of color too.
I always find it funny because Judah Friedlander has a joke. He says that if people are going to be talking about black people as people of color, then they should talk about white people as people without color. And that always cracks me up. It's a super funny joke.
That
And I
is
always think that expression reminds me of that joke every single time. It's pretty
silly.
funny. Judah Friedlander, if you haven't seen it, it's like a stand-up on Netflix about American exceptionalism that is great. It's absolutely fantastic. And he's a Jew, so
Oh,
uh,
good.
he
No,
was on a bunch of like cool shows like 30 Rock and some other stuff. Like it's a really good stand-up.
what's his name?
Judah Friedlander.
Judah. Oh yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, he was born. He was said to, he was a storyteller, and he was said to have lived in ancient Greece between 620 and 564 BCE. So in timelines, what that means is before Common Era. That's what a lot of academics use, and I would say
Yes.
probably secular people will use this too, instead of before Christ and Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. They use before Common Era and after Common Era, so ACE, BCE. So
Yeah.
um,
Because we don't need Jesus to tell us what the time is. That's a conspiracy by the filthy atheist. Like we changed it.
so that's an academic
Everyone
bit
knows.
of
Yes.
chronological telling of time. So I am going to read this little brief history before we get into it.
Sure. I'm particularly stupid with the jokes today, so I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry, it's BCE and Common Era. My bad. It's yeah, that
Yeah, yeah.
to correct that. So yeah, before Common Era and Common Era. Okay, here we go. Life of Aesop. The life and history of Aesop is involved like that of Homer. Homer is the one who wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Yep.
Very, very famous poet. The most famous of the Greek poets, in much obscurity, Sardis, the capital of Lydia, Samos, a Greek island, Mesembria, an ancient colony of Thrace, and Kottayam, the chief city of the province of Phrygia, contend for the distinction of being the birthplace of Aesop. Although the honor thus claimed cannot be definitely assigned to any one of these places, yet there are a few incidents now generally accepted by scholars as established facts relating to the birth, life, and death of Aesop. He is, by an almost universal consent, allowed to have been born about the year 620 BCE and have been by birth a person who was enslaved. He was owned by two masters in succession, both inhabitants of Samos, Xanthus and Jadmon, the later of whom gave him his liberty as a reward for his learning and wit. One of the privileges of freedmen in the ancient republics of Greece was the permission to take an active interest in public affairs, and Aesop, like the philosophers Phaedo, Menippus, and Epictetus, in later times raised himself from the indignity of a servile condition to a position of high renown. In his desire alike to instruct and to be instructed, he traveled through many countries, and among others came to Sardis, the capital of the famous king of Lydia, the great patron, in that day of learning and of learned men. He met the court of Croesus with Solon, Thales, and other sages, and is related so to have pleased his royal master by the part he took in the conversations held with these philosophers, that he applied to him an expression which has since passed into a proverb. The Phrygian has spoken better than all. On the invitation of Croesus, he fixed his residence at Sardis, and was employed by that monarch in various difficult and delicate affairs of the state. In his discharge of these commissions, he visited the different petty republics of Greece. At one time, he is found in Corinth, and another in Athens, endeavoring by narration of some of his wise fables to reconcile the inhabitants of those cities to the administration of their respective rulers, Periandar, and Pis, Pisistratus. One of those ambassadorial missions undertaken at the command of Croesus was the occasion of his death. Having been sent to Delphi with a large sum of gold for distribution among the citizens, he was so provoked at their covetousness that he refused to divide the money and sent it back to his master. The Delphians, enraged at this treatment, accused him of impiety, and in spite of his sacred character as an ambassador, executed him as a public criminal. The cruel death of Aesop was not unavenged. The citizens of Delphi were visited with a series of calamities until they made public reparation of their crime, and the blood of Aesop became a well known adage, bearing witness to the truth. The deeds of wrong would not pass unpunished, neither did the great fabulist lack posthumous honors. For a statue was erected to his memory at Athens, the work of Lysippus, one of the most famous of Greek sculptors. Phaedrus thus immortalizes the event. Please forgive me for this. I'm going to be butchering this, but I'm going to do the best with this. Okay.
Okay.
Esopo ingentum stratum possure attici servumque collocarunt aeterna in basi petere honoris sirent unt cuncti viam, nec generi tribui sed virtuti gloriam. This is not Greek, so I think this is Latin. I studied Greek and I didn't study Latin, so I am not an expert on pronouncing Latin at all. So just letting you know that.
Okay.
Few facts are all that can be relied on with any degree of certainty in reference to birth, life, and death of Aesop. There were first brought to light, after a patient search and diligent perusal of ancient authors by Frenchman M. Claude Gaspard Bachet de Mesriac, who declined the honor of being tutor to Louis XIII of France from his desire to devote himself exclusively to literature. He published his life of Aesop, Anno Domini 1632. We talked about Anno Domini, which means the year of our.
Mm-hmm.
The later investigations of host of English and German scholars had added very little to the facts given by M. Mesriac. The substantial truth of his statements has been confirmed by later criticism and inquiry. It remains to state with prior to his publication of M. Mesriac, the life of Aesop was the pen pal of Maximus Planudes, a monk of Constantinople, who was on an embassy to Venice by the Byzantine Emperor Andronicus the Elder, who wrote in the early part of the 14th century. His life was prefixed to all the early editions of these fables, and was republished as late as 1727 by Archdeacon Croxall in the introduction of his edition of Aesop. This life of Planudes contains, however, so small an amount of truth and is so full of absurd pictures of the grotesque deformity of Aesop, of wondrous apocryphal stories, of lying legends, and gross anachronisms, that it is now universally condemned as false, puerile, and unauthentic. It is given up in the present day by general consent as unworthy of the slightest credit. JFT. That is the most academic thing that you can imagine. I said, I'm going to try to give you the best story, but I'm going to give it in a nutshell what the story is about him. So this kind of tries to unpack a full character. We don't really know much about him. They said he was enslaved, or he was a slave, whatever term you want to use. I'm using the woke language, but DEI woke language, but some would say he was a slave. I use the term enslaved. But he was able to kind of get liberty, and he told these really amazing stories that always had a moral and an ethic at the end. So that's kind of the idea about who this person is. So from this kind of telling, we got kind of another story. Do you dedicate anything from that history lesson?
Uh, no, for let's go to the story.
Who
But
would like the story?
Silver Phoenix said, "I prefer BCE and CE," and then said, "Aesop's Fables were my favorite stories of mine from childhood." And then also said that it's Latin. That
Yeah, I was
uh,
pretty sure that's a Latin story.
we
So
can go into the story and see who we dedicate it to.
we're gonna read several stories because these are fast. These are really,
Okay.
really fast. So we're gonna go through it. Um, okay, here is the first story. Give me 1 second. Just need to get this really quick. Okay,
And
this
do
story.
we have to one dedication per story or one in general?
We could do a dedication per story. Like it could be quick.
Okay.
You know what I mean? This is we have time. Even though
Okay.
it's
Yes.
like 9:44, these stories are really short.
Okay.
Here we go. The ant and the chrysalis. An ant nimbly running about in the sunshine in search of food came across a chrysalis that was very near its time of change. The chrysalis moved its tail and thus attracted the attention of the ant, who then saw for the first time that it was alive. Poor pitiable animal, cried the ant disdainfully. What a sad fate is yours! Well, I can run hither and thither at my pleasure, and if I wish, ascend the tallest tree, you lie imprisoned here in your shell, with power only to move a joint or two with your scaly tail. The chrysalis heard all of this, but did not try to make any reply. A few days after, when the ant passed that way again, nothing but the shell remained. Wondering what had become of its contents, he felt himself suddenly shaded and fanned by the gorgeous wings of a beautiful butterfly. Behold in me, said the butterfly, your much pitied friend. Boast now of your powers, and run and climb as long as you can get me to listen. So saying, the butterfly rose in the air and, borne along and aloft on a summer breeze, was soon lost to the sight of the ant forever. Appearances are deceptive. So I'm going to give a little quick rundown of the story before we do it. So basically, a chrysalis is like what the caterpillar goes into. It's like this kind of shell thing, like in the metamorphosis. So that's what it is. So it's like um, when the animal is going through the metamorphosis, like a moth or a butterfly, it's kind of
Yes.
trapped in that space. So the ant is seeing this being kind of stuck in this shell and saying, "You just are stuck here, and I could do whatever I want." But what ultimately happens is, it may seem that this animal is trapped, but appearances are deceptive. Who do you dedicate this story to, Max?
This one reminded me of one we told about Jacinth, who was the first person to be homosexual in the Greek myths, and who also went a transformation. He became a flower over like a curse, or I don't remember the exact details like off the top of my head, but to Jacinth, because metamorphosis stories are always fun, and in a way they always kind of say the same thing, that metamorphosis is possible, that you can change like who you are at some point in your life. And for humans it's particularly meaningful that we can choose to change a lot of things just by choosing them. So it's a very interesting idea, this one of metamorphosis, for the good, bad, and for the bad side too. So who do you dedicate this to? And
Yeah, I
go
am
ahead.
dedicating this. I dedicate this story to um, I dedicate the story to people who work really hard and strive really hard and are underappreciated. And in reality, people may not see the great work that they're doing, but be aware that these people are doing amazing work, and keep holding them up, and being supportive of that. You know,
Hmm.
so that's who I dedicate the story to.
All right. And 1 second, Silver Phoenix Rising said for $10. I'm glad I caught you, gentlemen, live for once before going to work. So thank you for being here, Silver Phoenix Rising. It's a big supporter of the show. So, what do you have in store for us next?
What I have next is, let's see. This story is called Androcles. Androcles, I think that's how we pronounce it.
All right.
And yes. Oh, Hussein says hi, and he said and hope you're well, inshallah. That's what he said to you. You remember Hussein, right?
Yes, of course.
Cool dude. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Say hi. Hi to him. I'm still wanting to debate him on drug legalization, but no pressure.
Yes. I'll tell him
Sure.
that. Oh, he says he's down to have that debate. He just has two jobs, so whenever
Oh,
you're free,
okay. Yeah, no
yeah,
problem. Whenever you're free, that's cool. Thank you.
great.
That it's going to be fun.
So this is our next story, Androcles. A slave named Androcles once escaped from his master and fled to the forest. As he was wandering about, there he came upon a lion lying down, moaning and groaning. At first he turned to flee, but finding that the lion did not pursue him, he turned back and went up to him. As he came nearer, the lion put out his paw, which was all swollen and bleeding, and Androcles found that a huge thorn had got into it and was causing all the pain. He pulled out the thorn and bound up the paw of the lion, who was soon able to rise and lick the hand of Androcles like a dog. Then the lion took Androcles to his cave, and every day used to bring him meat from which to live. But shortly afterwards, both Androcles and the lion were captured, and the slave was sentenced to be thrown to the lion. After the latter had been kept without food for several days, the emperor and all his court came to see the spectacle, and Androcles was led out into the middle of the arena. Soon the lion was let loose from his den and rushed bounding and roaring towards his victim. But as soon as he came nearer to Androcles, he recognized his friend and fawned upon him and licked his hands like a friendly dog. The emperor, surprised at this, summoned Androcles to him, who told him the whole story. Whereupon the slave was pardoned and freed, and the lion let loose to his native forest. Gratitude is the sign of noble souls.
Very nice.
So, maybe we should dedicate this. We can dedicate this to later. Like, why don't we do that to later? Because I want to see if we can get some
Okay.
stories. Is that cool?
Yeah.
I think we can pop out a lot of stories in just these last 10 minutes. This story is called The Ant and the Dove. An ant went to the bank of the river to quench its thirst, and being carried away by the rush of the stream, was on the point of drowning. A dove sitting on a tree overhanging the water plucked a leaf and let it fall into the stream close to her. The ant climbed onto it and floated in safety to the bank. Shortly afterwards, a bird catcher came and stood under the tree and laid his lime twigs for the dove, which sat in the branches. The ant, perceiving his design, stung him in the foot. In pain, the bird catcher threw down the twigs, and the noise made the dove take wing. One good turn deserves another. Okay. Um, we'll put the commentary to later because I think we want to get some more. This is The Ant and the Grasshopper. In a field, one summer's day, a grasshopper was hopping about, chirping and singing to its heart's content. An ant passed by, bearing along with great toil an ear of corn, and was taking to the nest. Why not come and chat with me, said the grasshopper, instead of toiling and moiling in the way? I am helping to lay up food for the winter, said the ant, and recommend you do the same. Why bother about winter, said the grasshopper. We have got plenty of food at the present. But the ant went on its way and continued its toil. When the winter came, the grasshopper had no food and found itself dying of hunger. While it saw the ants distributing every day corn and grain from the stores they had collected in the summer, then the grasshopper knew it is best to prepare for the days of necessity.
That's cute.
Okay, so we'll do a couple. We'll have several more of this. See, I told
Are
you, huh?
are they intended as like children's stories?
Well, these are, yes, they're children's stories, and they're like moral, kind of pithy stories that make you think.
Mm-hmm.
I think of things like the Twilight Zone, and even like horror anthology where there's like this moral. These kind of intense things happen, and there's like a moral that you learn afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
after the story. So I'll read this story here, and if we could probably do maybe three more stories, and then we could
All
talk
right.
about
Yes.
that. How many have we covered? We've covered quite a bit. The
Uh,
apes,
3.
three. Yeah, I'm gonna see how many we can get here. The apes and the two travelers, two men, one who always spoke the truth, and the other who told nothing but lies, were traveling together, and by chance came to the land of apes. One of the apes, who had raised himself to be king, commanded them to be seized and brought before him, that he might know what was said of him among men. He ordered at the same time that all apes be arranged in a long row on his right hand and on his left, and that a throne be placed for him, as the custom among men. After these preparations, he signified that the two men should be brought before him, and greeted them with the salutation: "What sort of king do I seem to you to be, O strangers?" The lion tribal replied, "You seem to be the most mighty king. And what is your estimate of those you see? Oh, and what is your estimate of those you see around me? These," he made the answer, "are worthy companions of yourself, fit at least to be ambassadors and leaders of armies." The ape and all his court, gratified with the lie, commanded the handsome present be given to the flatterer. On the truthful traveler thought to himself, if so if so great a reward be given for a lie, with what gift may not I be rewarded, if according to my custom I tell the truth? And the ape quickly turned to him, "And pray, how do I and these my friends around me seem to you?" "Thou art," he said, "a most excellent ape, and all these companions after thy example are excellent apes too." The king of the apes, enraged at hearing these truths, gave him over to the teeth and claws of his companions. The ants and the grasshopper. The ants were spending a fine winter's day drying grain and collected in the summertime. A grasshopper, perishing with famine, passed by and earnestly begged for a little food. The ants inquired of him, "Why did you not treasure up food during the summer?" He replied, "I had not leisure enough. I passed the days in singing." Then said in derision, "If you were foolish enough to sing all summer, you must dance supperless to bed in the winter. It is thrifty to prepare today for the wants of tomorrow. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to try to get 10. This is short too. The ass and his driver, an ass being driven along a high road, suddenly started off and bolted to the brink of a deep precipice. While he was in the act of throwing himself over, his owner seized him up by the tail, endeavoring to pull him back. When the ass persisted in his effort, the man let him go and said, "Conquer, but conquer to your cost. A willful beast must go his own way." We've got another ass story. Okay. The ass and his masters. An ass
Yeehaw!
an ass belonging to an herb seller who gave him too little food and too much work made a petition to Jupiter to be released from his present service and provided with another master. Jupiter, after warning him that he would repent his request, caused him to be sold to a tile maker. Shortly afterwards, finding that he had heavier loads to carry and harder work in the brick field, he petitioned for another change of master, Jupiter telling him that it would be the last time that he could grant his request, ordained he be sold to a tanner. The ass found that he had fallen into the worst hands, and noting his master's occupation, said, groaning, "It would have been better for me to have been either starved by one or to have been overworked by the other of my former masters than to have been brought by my present owner, who will, even after I'm dead, tan my hide and make me useful to him. He that finds discontentment in one place is not likely to find happiness in another."
All right.
Okay, so let's see. We've got 7. We got 3 more. We got 3 more ass stories.
Okay.
So we're gonna do the ass and his shadow. The ass and his shadow.
Ah, what a lovely name for a song.
A traveler hired an ass to convey him to a distant place. The day being intensely hot and the sun shining in its strength, the traveler stopped to rest and sought shelter from the heat under the shadow of the ass. As this afforded only protection for one, and as the traveler and the owner of the ass was between them, as which of them had the right to the shadow. The owner maintained that he had let the ass only, and not his shadow. The traveler asserted that he had the hire of the ass, hired his shadow also. The quarrel proceeded from words to blows, and while the men fought, the ass galloped off. In quarreling about the shadow, we often lose the substance.
I like this one.
I'll do 2 more. We've got a lot of ass stories. Let's see.
Yeah, they're always fun.
Yeah, they're great.
If it involves an ass, it's always fun.
So here's another ass story. The ass carrying the image. An ass once carried through the streets of a city a famous wooden image to be placed in one of its temples. As he passed along, the crowd made lowly prostration before the image. The ass, thinking that they bowed their heads in token of respect for himself, bristled up with pride, gave himself airs, and refused to move another step. The driver, seeing him thus stop, laid his whip lustily about his shoulders and said, "Oh, you perverse dullhead! It is not yet come to this, that men pay worship to an ass? They are not wise who give to themselves the credit due to others." And here's the last one. This is the last ass story they have here. So we're going to go with this as our last story. The ass's brains. This is the ass's brains. The lion and the fox went hunting together. The lion, on the advice of the fox, sent a message to the ass, proposing to make an alliance between their two families. The ass came to the place of meeting, overjoyed at the prospect of a royal alliance. But when he came there, the lion simply pounced on the ass and said to the fox, "Here is our dinner for today. Watch you here while I go and take a nap. Woe betide you if you touch my prey." The lion went away, and the fox waited, but finding that his master did not return, ventured to take out the brains of the ass and ate them up. When the lion came back, he soon noticed the absence of the brains and asked the fox in a terrible voice, "What have you done with the brains?" "Brains, your majesty. It had none, or it would have never fallen into your trap. Wit always has an answer ready." So who do you dedicate all the? We had 11 stories. We went one step beyond.
I was torn. I really like the first one because I'm partial to like metamorphosis in many ways. It kind of reflects me a lot. But then you had to come in at the very last minute with a bunch of ass stories. So to that poor ass, I was kept getting into trouble, and the people that he taught a lesson to, because he got eaten in the end. That was sad, but it's kind of funny. But yeah, I think Metamorphosis would be my serious choice for the story that I like the most. And based on that, I would dedicate it to like the people who actually get to change themselves just because they choose. And I think I'm repeating it, but I mean, I said before. What about you?
Oh, sorry. What
No problem.
I dedicate all these stories to is us. We as people need to think better. What Aesop is teaching us is to have critical thinking. We need critical thinking in our lives. We can't just buy what people tell us. We can't just take it as wholesale. We need to think. We need to not have arrogance. We need not to have ego. We need to have, we need to plan ahead. We need not to be impulsive. There's all these kind of traits that we see with the kind of the characters that suffer are traits like
Mhm.
impulsivity, not critical thinking, not thinking ahead. And really what I think these stories teach us is wit and how to become
Mhm.
more better versions of ourselves. And this is why I'm going to give it to our crowd here and to people, and I'm going to dedicate these stories to Aesop as well. Aesop gave us a lot of stories, and I hope we can come back in the future. There's like probably hundreds of these stories. So, and these stories are really fun to read and go through. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah, they're nice. I didn't know about them, so it's interesting to hear new stories that you haven't heard before. At this point, a lot of the moral lessons, like it's not like I'm going to learn any of the of get like something really valuable because my moral code has been set up for a while. But I don't know. Maybe it's a fun way to show some of these concepts to your children. I think that would be like a really good thing. And this is all of these stories have certain value. I talk a lot with my nieces and I tell them stories, but it's kind of because I like doing the storytelling part too. And Catherine, we had a couple of cool messages. Hold on, because I messed up and I didn't save them. But yeah, give me one moment. uh Soul Watcher Paranormal said, "Hi, Oz, loving laying here, feeling terrible, and listening to your gentle voice, Isa." And he said that the word that we were looking for was parable. So thank you so much for that. You were correct. We couldn't grab it for some reason. And then Catherine said something, but I'm missing it. So I'm sorry. Next week, I don't know what I'm going to do yet because I haven't thought about it enough. I have a couple of ideas, but I haven't decided. So I'll keep you posted on the next shows. And So tomorrow we're having a show debunking a couple of the claims that the guy I debated with, Evidence of God, didn't bring to the debate. He made a video, and we're going to go through those and see if there's something there. And then on Friday, I'm very excited for this debate. And I said before you came on, Isa, was that what do you think about Nadir debating some random Christian guy? Do you think it's going to be exciting? Is it going to be boring? I think it's going to be pretty exciting, and it's going to be a blast. And a lot of things is going to be said, and we're going to disagree with all of it. And that sounds super interesting.
I've actually seen. There's another platform that I visit quite a bit, and a Christian platform, funny enough, and Nadir comes. He's come several times on my time on that platform, and it was interesting. They were debating about was Jesus crucified or not, and I mean,
oh, that's fun.
I just think it's such a silly debate. Like, what are you debating? Like, you can't prove any of this. You either believe it or you don't. You know what I mean? Like, if you think that the evidence is compelling that Jesus historically existed and was crucified, fine. If you religiously don't believe that happened, fine. I don't. Why do we care? Like, I don't know. I just I don't know. It kind of blows my mind personally, but I think me personally, like, if you have faith or you don't have faith, what's really important is what helps you function as a human being. What makes you the best person you can be. And if Jesus being crucified is an important story for you to be a good human being, why would I want to take that from you? You know what I mean? And even the opposite, it's to say, well, I believe that the Quran is true, and I believe that none of these prophets face this kind of indignation, and that's your belief. Fine, if that helps you in your faith, I'm going to support you. That's kind of how I stand on this. I think we need to support people to be better human beings, and that should be the goal. It's not about you're not going to convince people in these because it's like
yeah, that's true.
It's like trying to convince people. Do you believe Captain Picard is the better, Star Trek captain or Captain Kirk?
Mhm.
People have their different opinions of what is invaluable to them, and you're not going to change that opinion. I don't think.
Yeah, for dates, like it's going to be that's why you have a lot of different choices because people like different things. But like the part when it gets particular, like my religion is true, it's more true or it's better than yours because yours is somehow not scientific. That to me is an amusing idea. I'm really excited to hear all about it. I swear.
I think it is wild because it's like, how do you debate science and faith? Like, my position, and I'm glad that you agree with my position too.
Yeah.
And you foster that position is this position that's not what these texts are meant to do. They're teaching you how to be better human beings. You can't prove any of these things.
Right.
I know you can't prove it. If you believe it and you have faith, then that's what you need to follow is your faith. That in Arabic they call it iman, or in Hebrew they call it imuna. It's faith. You have your faith, and we should respect it. I love living in a pluralistic society where people can choose what they want to be. I really don't like the idea of people imposing any narrative on anyone. I think you have to choose your path. And that's what makes people great. Like if you say, well, this is our standard and everyone has to think and believe the way I think, well, then you don't have real faith. What you have is imposition and you have coercion. You don't actually have real faith. No one actually has faith in that society. What you have is a bunch of people compelled to basically, cosplay and play characters that they really aren't. But when you have freedom, you can see what people really believe and where their faith is. So, like, for example, like in Islam, you have this month where people fast called Ramadan, right?
Yeah. Happened not too long ago.
Yeah, right. So if someone wants to eat in front of the person who's fasting, what's the problem? Like the person gets, I'm upset that this person's eating. I'm like, well, then your faith is weak.
Is that frowned upon if someone eats? Because I don't know many Muslims in person, so I wouldn't know.
No, I would say that in that situation, it's the same thing like Jewish people. There's a holy day that Jewish people fast, which is called Yom Kippur. It's
Uh-huh.
it's the Day of Atonement, and there's another day called Tisha B'av, which is like the 19th of Av. Um, or yeah, the idea is let me see if I get that right. Let's say it correctly. It is. It's the ninth day. Yeah, it's the ninth day of Av. So these are days that
Okay.
people fast. People are and Jewish people fast for 24 hours, right? Or 25 hours, like the Orthodox. If people are eating in front of them, usually people kind of stay at home. But there were some like athletes who wanted to, particularly on Yom Kippur, wanted to do the sport. They wouldn't drink water, and they wouldn't eat and drink water while they were playing because they're saying, "I need to observe this holiday." Other people were drinking water. I think
Right.
people who are of strong faith, they're not going to care what other people do. What does it matter what those other people are doing? Because the thing is, they say ye of little faith, right? These people don't have very strong faith. What they're doing is the performance. I'm sorry, I'm going to be kind of critical here, but these people are doing a performance. So they're like, I need to do this performance, and if people don't play in my performance, I'm going to get upset. Well, sorry, that's not how the world works, So
Yeah, those are the things that get me a little like I will eat in front of you on purpose because that is like a funny. It's funny.
no, I get what your
If
point
you get
is.
upset, like it's your belief. Like why do I have to do anything that compares to what you believe?
You don't,
But
and
but that is benign. That is kind of like low level trolling. So I think I'm excused.
well, what I think is, well, that person's not being respectful of you. They're being egotistical and arrogant and saying,
Right.
me fasting. A person who's really doing this authentic practice, a spiritual practice, isn't going to tell anyone. They're probably just going to be very private and say, hey, this is between me and God. I don't want people to know. But when people are doing that, it's showing vanity, it's showing ego, it's putting themselves on display. And I'm like, what is the purpose of this fast? This purpose of the fast is so people can see you fasting. And I'm like, it's like the Aesop's fable. You know what I mean? When people
Yeah.
are proclaiming and making noise, well, what do you expect from sounds? You hit the ground. Like yeah, I think there's a worship of ego, and people do these religious spiritual practices so people can see them. You know,
Sort of like like a bit like a religion, bro. Like to pump up the religion. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm being extra dumb. But let's wrap it up for tonight because I'm rambling more than usual. Thank you, Isa. It was fun and interesting. During the next shows, I'll tell you what we're going to do next Wednesday. But I'm taking over main chat duties as we have been doing in the rotation. And stay tuned because we have a lot more content. We're talking about. We are having a stream tomorrow about the evidence of God, evidence that he put forth. See if there's something there. We have the pre and after show for the Nadir thing, and Isa talked about doing what the turn the tables or devil's advocate debate on Saturday. So we'll see about resolving that. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Isa, so much. And we'll catch you on the next Tell Me That Story show. And stay tuned. Like, share, subscribe, do the social thingies. And we'll see you on the next one.